Alright, in this video, we're going to look at the concept of analytical geometry. Now, the word geometry is talking about shapes. It's talking about shapes. So let's look at this. We have coordinate transformation. What do you understand by the word coordinate transformation? That means the x, y, and z plane are transforming, are changing. Now, if you see from the definition, the coordinate transformation are fundamental operation. Now, the word fundamental is talking about basic. It's talking about basic. The word fundamental is talking about basic. That's something that is basic fundamental. Something that is basic operation in analytical geometry. You get analytical geometry that allows us to manipulate and analyze geometric shapes by changing the reference frame or perspective. That's the definition of coordinate transformation. Now, if we move to the next one, you'll see rotation. We'll see rotation. Now, rotation involves turning a point around the origin by an angle of theta. That is rotation. Turn involves the turning a point, like turning a point around the origin by an angle of theta. Now, we look at translation. Now, translation translation shift a point by certain distance along the x, y, and z plane. Along the x, y, and z plane. And scaling is talking about the size. Scaling changes the size of an object by expanding, as in expanding or contracting it along the x, y, and z plane. Now, it's not about talking about the story. Let's see how this works. Now, rotation, if we look at rotation, let's say rotation in two dimension. Since they mentioned earlier that rotation involves turning a point around the origin by an angle of theta. So if we have the rotation in two dimension, that means two dimension, which is x and y plane. This is y and this is x, and we have an angle that is turning, since that's what rotation is talking about. Now, the formula is going to be given by the new points. Since I'm talking about like the coordinates, let's say this is my point P, and my point P is x and y, which is the coordinate of my point P. Now, the new reference point, since coordinate transformation is talking about the fundamental operation in analytical geometry that allows us to manipulate and analyze geometric shape by changing the reference frame or perspective. So the new reference point will be given as after rotating by an angle, since that's what rotation is talking about. So the new reference point is going to be x prime is equals to x cos theta minus y sine theta for the x axis. Then for the y axis will be y prime is equals to x sine theta plus y cos theta. Now, if they are talking about just x and y plane, that's two for two dimension, we have this. But if we're talking about maybe three dimension, if maybe I include for three dimension, we having rotation in two dimension, the rotation in three dimension, in three dimension will still be the same thing, which is x prime here is equals to x cos theta minus y sine of theta, like this. Then here is going to be y prime is equals to x sine theta plus y cos theta, like this. Then for the z part, we just write z prime is equals to z. It doesn't change. So this is the formula for rotation in two dimension and rotation in three dimension. Now let's move to the next one. And the next one is talking about translation. Next one is talking about translation. So what can we do about translation? Now, since from the definition, they mentioned earlier that translation shifts a point by a certain distance along the x, y, and z axis. Now for translation in two dimension, the formula for translation in two dimension. Now since they are talking about shifting a point by a certain distance, and translation is talking about something that is linear. So if we have maybe something like x and y plane, this is my y and this is my x, and this is my y and this is my x, and x and y is changing, and x and y is changing. So let's say I have maybe a point B here, and this is my point B is x and y. We have this initially here, and the x and y is changing. That means there's an increase in x and y. We're going to say that for x prime, which is the new coordinate, will be equals to the x plus the change in the x axis. Then for y prime, is going to be y plus the change in y axis. Then for three dimension, if let's say two dimension and three dimension. Now this is for two dimension, just this if you are given only x and y. Now for three dimension, you say z prime will be z plus a change in z, since we're talking about translation in two dimension, three dimension. So if we have x, y, and z, we're going to use for x, for y, and for z. Alright. So next, let's talk about scaling. Now remember we said earlier that scaling scaling changes the size of an object by expanding or contracting it along the x, y, and z direction. So we can say scaling in two dimension and three dimension. Scaling in two dimension and three dimension. The formula is given by since we are talking about size, formula is given by x prime is equals to s of x multiplied by the x, then y prime is equals to um s of y multiplied by y, then for z prime is given as s of z multiplied by z. Right, so that is the formula for scaling, since it's talking about size for three dimension. But if you are given only two dimension and they ask you to find the new coordinate of the they ask you to find the new coordinate, so we are going to just use only the x and y. All right, let's see how we can solve questions on analytical geometry. All right, let's now can solve question on analytical geometry. So let's say we have an example, an example, example. We have an example, example. We have example. We have a point P, a point P, which is a point P, which is 2,3, a point P, which is 2,3. Rotates or rotated by 45 degrees, rotated by 45 degrees around the origin, in two dimension. Find the new coordinate coordinate of p. Find the new coordinate of p. Alright, you can still remember that this formula and this question is talking about the rotation, and they ask us to find the new coordinate of p. So we have solution here. Now the point p. Now the point p is given as 2 and 3. Rotate by an angle theta equals to 45 degrees around the origin in two dimension is 2D, and find the new coordinates. Now I can say that from our formula of rotation in two dimension, so we can say my x prime, which is my new coordinate, is going to be x cos theta minus y sine theta, and for my y prime um is going to be x sine theta plus y cos theta. Right, it's going to be like this. So we can say that my x prime will be equals to, what is my value of x? This is my x, this is my y. So x is 2, then cos and theta, which is 45, in it minus then my y which is 3, then 3 sine 45. So to solve this, we have 2 times 45 is root 2 over 2 negative 3 times 45 also is root 2 over 2. Alright, so 2 can cancel to here. So this is root 2 minus 3 root 2 over 2. 3 root 2 over 2. If we take the LCM of this, we have 2 here. This will be 2 root 2 minus 3 root 2. 3 root 2. So next we can see that 3 minus this, we have 1, that's another root 2 over 2 minus root 2 over 2 rather will be the answer for the x prime. So for the y prime is given as x sine theta plus y cos theta. So y prime, what's my value of y? Value of x rather, which is 2. Gonna be sine of 45 plus my y, what's my value of y? Y is 3 cos of 45. And this, so this is 2 times root 2 over 2 plus 3 times root 2 over 2. 2 can cancel to here. 2 can cancel to here. Then left with 2 plus 3 root 2 like this. So we can add this. This is going to be 3 plus the visible one at the front. 4 root root 2. Okay, 4 root 2. Okay, here is divided by 2. This mistake here is divided by 2 here. So divided by 2 here. So this should be equals to 2 root 2. What's the answer? 2 root 2. What's the answer? Alright, okay, this place should, no, it's not correct. So we're going to say this will be root 2 plus 3 root 2 over 2. Alright, so my LCM is 2. Then I'll make 2 root 2 plus, there's going to be 3 root 2. 3 root 2, here's going to be 5 root 2 over 2. Alright, 5 root 2 over 2. So the coordinate of x prime and y prime, that's the new coordinate, is going to be, what's my x? My x is this So here's going to be minus root 2, root 2 over 2. Then here's going to be 5 root 2 over 2. That's my answer. Alright, thank you.